Li Rulong traveled to the world of courtyards filled with birds, but ended up traveling a bit early, heading straight to early 1949. The 49 cities have not yet been liberated, the new country has not yet been established, and the situation in the capital is turbulent, with flying clouds. As the saying goes, time makes heroes, and Li Rulong feels that he has great potential. In the eyes of others, he may seem like a gangster in an alleyway, but in reality, he kills enemy spies, robs wealthy gentry, fights bullies, and saves comrades, making great contributions and gaining a reputation. As for those beasts, Li Rulong's attitude is very simple: whoever causes trouble will be the one. As long as I have no morality, I will not be kidnapped by morality. As long as I'm ruthless and ruthless, beasts won't be able to turn the tables. But soon Li Rulong realized that this world was not just about alleys, but also a fusion of the glorious era, the little women under the Zhengyang Gate, and the world of iron, rice and steel. Do you still want to cut off the Hu Tian Jujube? Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 001. Is the courtyard full of birds? This taste is so delicious. You are listening at novelfull.audio. January 18, 1949, is the 20th day of the 12th lunar month. Today, Tuesday, early in the morning, small snowflakes drifted down from the sky. Oh. 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 Starting with the first crow of a rooster, the entire capital seemed to be completely awakened. In Courtyard 95, Nanluoga Lane, Xiqing District, there are 3 courtyards in the front, middle, and back, including the upside-down house. Soon, someone opened their door and came out with a coal stove to start a fire and boil water outside. In no time, the air in the front, middle, and back 3 courtyards was filled with the smell of burning firewood or coal balls. After a while, the sound of adults greeting and speaking, the crying and fussing of children who don't want to wake up, and the sound of chickens crowing and dogs barking, that's called a commotion. But in the eyes of those literary and artistic people, this is just the fireworks of the human world. In the east wing of the front yard, Li Rulong was once again awakened by the noise outside. Even though he had been here for a few days, he was still not accustomed to this kind of noise. Ma Dan. Before crossing over, I couldn't sleep in, but after crossing over, I still can't sleep in. Isn't it in vain for me to cross over? Li Rulong opened his bleary eyes, helplessly rose, and sat up from the Kong bed. Not all the courtyards in the 4 or 9 cities have Kong beds, but Li Rulong happens to have one. The reason is simple. The front owner's ancestors came from Nagata in northeast China and liked to sleep on Kong beds, so they built them. Li Rulong sat up on the Kong bed, and the residual heat of the bed combined with his youth made him not feel too cold. Wrapped in a cotton quilt, he habitually glanced out of the window because the window, which was slightly blurry with water vapor, made it impossible for Li Rulong to see clearly outside, but it was not important. Others' journey is either to a world of cultivation or high martial arts, to become Buddhas and ancestors, or to become immortal in martial arts. It's too late to go to the science fiction world, either conquering the stars and the sea or various superpowers, or even becoming the 4th natural disaster. It's my turn. Give me a guy to support the 49 cities in 1949. Is it really a world full of courtyards? Who should I go to argue with? Thanks to Golden Finger Awesome, otherwise, with my little social experience and unknown identity, I will fall into the hands of these animals sooner or later. Thinking of this, Li Rulong extended his left hand and suddenly saw an antique bronze mirror in his hand. With a casual flick of the right hand on the mirror, lines of text suddenly appeared on the original copper mirror. Name: Li Rulong, gender: male, age: 18 years old, status: healthy, fate: 100 points. As for the traveler, having a golden finger is nothing but normal. A few days ago, Li Rulong was still a university monk who had a headache trying to prove his internship. However, he heard that the film and television base was recruiting group performers, including food, accommodation, and money. He could also provide an internship certificate, so he followed his classmates and went in droves. As a result, while filming a certain explosion scene, I was hit on the back of my head by a copper mirror that fell out of nowhere, so I became a member of the crossing army. It can be considered as contributing a new channel for crossing the industry, but I don't know if there will be like-minded people in the future. However, what satisfied Li Rulong was that this time he was not wearing sole clothes, but wearing clothes, and his entire life had returned from the age of 22 to 18. Not only that, but also obtained an identity that could integrate into this world, even having a place to settle down. And all of this stems from this vast world mirror, but whether it's reshaping the physical body or integrating into this world, it all requires consuming fate points. The good news is that with this fate point, theoretically anything can be exchanged. The bad news is, this point of destiny can only come in handy when it reaches 100 points, and you can't be the master of anything you can exchange for. You can only randomly obtain it, in other words, it's just a matter of fate. What left Li Rulong speechless the most was that he didn't know how to make a profit from his fate. The only thing that can be confirmed is that as long as he exists in this world for a day, he can obtain a certain amount of fate points, but it is still unclear whether he wants to obtain more fate points in addition. But regardless of its shortcomings, it is still a golden finger, isn't it? Not only did he travel with Li Rulong, but he also returned to his youth, even though he was not originally considered old. Finally, I have 100 destiny points. I hope I can exchange them for something good that suits my current situation. Thinking of this, Li Rulong lightly flicked his fingers on the bronze mirror. Ding! With a crisp sound. At the next moment, the text on the mirror changed. Name. Spirit domain, grade. First level lower grade, volume. 100 meters, length, 100 meters, width, 100 meters, height, Lingmai. Lingqi, first level lower level, X1, Lingmu, first level lower level, X1, Lingquan, first level lower level, X1, Linghua, first level lower level, X1, Lingdi, first level lower level, X15 acres, description. It can absorb energy from the outside and convert it into the 5-element spirit qi on its own, but cannot carry spiritual objects above this level. Status. Bindable, not tradable. Looking at the text appearing on the mirror, Li Rulong immediately slapped his thigh. I'll just say, there are a few time-traveling dramas who don't have personal space, so here we go. At that moment, he reached out his finger and lightly touched the mirror, and in the next moment, he trembled as if he had been electrocuted. Later, Li Rulong discovered that there was an additional mysterious space in his sea of consciousness, and he also understood how to use this spiritual realm. With a sudden thought, the whole person disappeared from the Kong bed, and by the time they reappeared, they were already sitting on a piece of black soil. The entire space is 10,000 square meters, which is 15 acres. Although it may not be small, it is not very big when it comes to size. Looking around, it can be seen that the incredibly flat 15 acres of black soil are quietly lying there. 1 acre of land is approximately 667 square meters, and a standard basketball court is only 420 square meters. This 15-acre spiritual land is about the size of 23 basketball courts, really not too small. Li Rulong looked up at the sky and saw a ball of fire hanging high, serving as the function of the sun. It goes without saying that he knew the spiritual fire of this lower-level product. In the central area of the entire space, a verdant tree stands tall, giving the impression of vitality. Next to the small tree is a well. Li Rulong quickly got up and walked over to take a look. Hi. This is not a well, it's just a pond. The diameter is about 3 feet wide, and the height is about 3 feet high. The texture should be bronze, and the surface is also imprinted with many mysterious and complex patterns. Looking inside, there was actually a spring hole at the bottom of the pool, continuously gurgling water into the pool. However, no matter how much it gurgled, the water surface remained 80% full, and the excess water was nowhere to be found. Li Rulong knew that this should be the Lingqi and Lingquan, but couldn't resist it. He reached out to grab a handful of Lingquan water and drank it into his mouth. Good guy, it's truly Lingquan, it's called a sweet and refreshing one. This is not an exaggeration, but Li Rulong's personal experience. The water in this spirit pool not only has an excellent taste, but also makes one feel completely transparent and refreshing after drinking it. Chapter 002. Jia Zhang's greediness wants to cause trouble. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After drinking the spiritual spring water, Li Rulong made 2 more turns in the spiritual realm and even grabbed a handful of black soil from the ground and sniffed it in front of his nose. It has to be said that the spiritual land is the spiritual land, even if it is just a first-order lower grade, it does not smell any earthy smell, but rather has a fragrance of soil. With this spiritual realm, even if there is only one lower level, I am not afraid of not being able to survive in this era. However, the use of this spiritual realm is not just about farming and breeding. If used well, its value is enormous. Li Rulong clapped his hands. Although he didn't do well before his time traveling, he still read a lot of online novels both in college and in group performances. There are also many ideas and settings on how to use and develop more valuable personal space, which are very valuable for reference. For example, if you need to touch objects with your hands to send them into the spiritual realm, what about your feet? What about any part of the body? If everything is possible, doesn't it mean that as long as there is enough reaction time, even in a shooting environment, there is no need to worry about being killed? When falling from a height, one can also frequently enter and exit the spiritual realm, which can continuously reduce the force during the fall and wait until 1 meter from the ground before coming out. What is the danger? There are many other ways to try, but Li Rulong is not in a hurry. After completing the inspection of my spiritual realm, I didn't rush to do anything. Instead, I had an idea to return to the Kong bed. After recalling the Great Thousand World Mirror, I was surprised to find that the text on the mirror had changed again. Name: Shaoqing Ling Dan, grade. First level lower grade, effect. Puzzle and enhance the mind, clarify the mind and nature, strengthen the tendons and solidify the marrow. If taken by practitioners, it can increase their skill by 10 years. Name: Yensheng Technique, grade. First level lower grade, effect. It can refer to things and represent forms, and prohibit the impeachment of all living beings. Good guy. Unexpectedly, there were 3 gains from this exchange. Li Rulong was so happy that he quickly reached out and touched the mirror. Originally, Li Rulong thought that the little Qingling pill was just a pill, but to his surprise, it was a jade bottle in his hand. The jade bottle is not big, just the size of a snuff bottle. It has a pure white color, a delicate texture, and is as warm as fat. No matter how you look at it, it is a high-quality sheepskin white jade. Good guy, this is buying pills and giving away medicine bottles. Buy one and get one free. Even if Li Rulong doesn't know much about his profession, he can still see that this medicine bottle is quite valuable, but he has no intention of selling it. He may keep it for future use. After incorporating the Shaoqing spirit pill into the spiritual realm, Li Rulong's attention quickly shifted to the nightmare victory technique. This kind of spell is not complicated to say, in other words, it captures a strand of breath from others and seals it into a piece of artifact, such as bamboo chopsticks, branches, paper figures, grass figures, and so on. As long as you target these items, such as poking the heart, gouging out the eyes, dissecting the heart, folding hands and feet, slapping the face, and so on, various injuries will appear on the person you want to defeat. This refers to the substitution of things for form and the prohibition of impeachment of living beings. Of course, the specific effects that this spell can exert are directly related to the user's cultivation level. Moreover, This is just a spell, not a serious cultivation method, and cannot fundamentally improve one's cultivation. At most, it is to make this Yan Xingtai more proficient and powerful as he uses it. Not to mention that, using spells requires the necessary energy, which is cultivation. It's not that without cultivation, one cannot use it. It's just that without cultivation, one still needs to forcefully use spells, which can cause damage to one's own essence, energy, and spirit. In severe cases, it can reduce one's lifespan. Fortunately, this time it happened to be exchanged for the little green spirit pill, which can increase cultivation by 10 years. It is perfect for practicing the nightmare victory technique. When taking this medication, you also need to be prepared for any physical reactions, such as sweating or excreting impurities from the body. It is also best to start practicing martial arts after taking it, so as to fully exert the medicinal power. Li Rulong glanced out the window, and the noise in the yard was not significant. After thinking for a moment, I decided to seize the time and escape directly into the spiritual realm. Then, I took the Shaoqing spirit pill and began practicing the nightmare victory technique. As the sky gradually brightened, every household began to pick up spittoons and toilets to queue up at the public restroom in the alley. Some of them can't hold back and still need to be in a queue. Fortunately, everyone is a neighbor in the neighborhood, not looking up and not looking down, which is still quite harmonious. The 49-year-old 4 or 9 cities still have traces of the Republic of China in many places. For example, from the attire and etiquette of some people in the alley, there are still some traces of Qing, but the faces of the common people have more anger and expectations for a better life than at that time. As time passed, most of the people in Courtyard 95 got up. The toiletries, convenience, food and drink, some diligent people have already started washing clothes. Oh, this little rabbit from the Li family hasn't gotten up yet. Jia Zhang, who was carrying a toilet, came to the front yard and looked at the motionless east wing room, but couldn't help but burst into tears. "You're so lazy and lazy, you're just a bunch of alleys. Isn't that right?" Since Lao Li left, this kid from the Li family has become more and more disrespectful. Yang Ruihua, the future second aunt, happened to light a stove and boil water outside, and immediately said, "If you knew that kid was like this now, you might be able to get angry and come back to life. That's a good room, but now it's cheaper, this kid. Damn it." Jia Zhang looked at the east wing room in the front yard, which Li Rulong currently lives in. The more he looked at it, the more jealous he felt in his heart, and the more he looked at it, the more jealous his face became. If you look at the entire 95 courtyard of the Lao Jia family's house, it can be considered good. The dignified west wing of the middle courtyard is second only to the main house of the Lao He family. Lao Jia, also known as Jia Dongxu's father, died early and did not leave Jia Dongxu with 1 or 2 younger brothers and sisters. Now, the mother and son live in the west wing of the courtyard, and this condition is much better than most ordinary people nowadays. Not to mention now, even after the liberation, it is common for a large family or even 3 generations to live together in one room. But this person is not greedy enough. Looking at the spicy and big house of the old Li family, it turns out that Li Rulong is the only one living now, and Jia Zhang's urine habit, which he doesn't have enough advantage of, can he not be envious? Furthermore, Jia Dongxu has reached the age to find a wife. After all, our party has not yet established a country, and even the 4 or 9 cities have not been taken over. In this situation, there is no need to wait until he is 20 years old to get married. After getting married, it will definitely be inconvenient to live in the family. Jia and Zhang have a beautiful idea. If they can get the east wing of the front yard, it will not only take advantage, but also solve the big trouble in the family. Thinking of this, Jia Zhang's eyes rolled and he suddenly came up with a plan. Let me tell you, after old Li died, this little rabbit looked quite sad crying, but in his heart, I don't know how happy he was. Wait a minute. I remember this kid was just adopted by old Li too. Suddenly, old Li too disappeared. I'm afraid this kid did it, right? Yang Ruihua was about to answer again when Yan Bugui walked out of the room. What's all this nonsense this morning? There's nothing to be gained, there's nothing to be said. Chapter 003 interrupts Jia Zhang's spell casting, and it's all over. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. It's only January 1949 now, and these beasts in the courtyard are not very old. The official plot of Sihiyuaner started in 1965, and there was a gap of 15 years between them. Jia Zhang is just in her early 40s and 41 years old. Yan Bugui and Yang Ruihua, who are not yet the third master or the third aunt, look even younger. Old Yan, did I make a mistake? Jia Zhang looked at Yan Bugui without looking back, pointing to the east wing room behind him. How long has it been? That little brat doesn't even look for work. He's seen wandering on the streets and alleys, isn't that a bunch of hutongs? In my opinion, when old Li was around, the little bunny always had a pig's nose inserted with onions, pretending to be an elephant. And there's also Lao Li who walked inexplicably. Who can guarantee that it wasn't this little brat who couldn't keep up and then hit hard? Don't mention it, the more I think about it, the more I feel that the matter of Lao Li's death is not that simple. Maybe it's that little brat. Hey! Who did the old rabbit say? A cold voice suddenly sounded. The old rabbit said you. Jia Zhang instinctively responded before realizing that she had been tricked. Suddenly turning around, Li Rulong was clubbing at the door of the east wing room at some point. Oh. So you still have some self-awareness, Li Rulong said with a mocking smile on his face as he walked out of the room and easily locked the door. If you ask me, your old Jia left so suddenly, the more I think about it, the more I feel that his death is not that simple. Looking at Jia Dongxu again, he doesn't really look much like Lao Jia. Maybe you put a green hat on Lao Jia and then conspired with the adulterer to harm him. This way, you two adulterers and prostitutes can reconcile. In Li Rulong's view, isn't it just spreading rumors? Who wouldn't know? However, there are indeed some issues with the death of Cheap Dad. It's okay if he didn't have the ability before, but now that he has the ability, if he has the opportunity later, he can investigate what's going on. But that's the rest of the story. For now, we need to put an end to Jia Zhang's arrogance, otherwise this guy will definitely kick his nose and face. You're talking nonsense. Jia Zhang suddenly became anxious. Oh, that's urgent. Li Rulong locked the door and walked towards Jia Zhang, Yan Ruihua, and Yan Bugui, but his words were like knives. If it weren't for that, why did you react so badly? You wouldn't have really made me say it right, would you? You fart. Jia Zhang put the toilet in her hand on the ground and was using her best skills. Why, do you want to throw a splash? Li Rulong interrupted the other person's casting with a smile. Alright, you're throwing a splash. It just happened to make things bigger. The neighbors will know about this when the time comes. Do you think anyone will believe it? It doesn't matter if you don't believe it. Do you think there will be someone who breaks their mouths like some old brats? When this news spreads, you won't be afraid. You have thick skin, but your son is at the age of finding a wife, right? Do you think your son still wants to find a good wife after these words are spread by those gossips? You. Jia Zhang's spell was interrupted, like an old hen being choked by her neck. She wanted to say she wasn't afraid, but she was really afraid. What have you seen in the connections between ordinary people, especially strangers, during these years? Isn't it just about reputation? Why does Yi Zhonghai always lean towards helping the Jia family but always get away with it? Isn't it because he has done a great job in reputation? What am I? Li Rulong stared at the other person with a mocking expression on his face. Since you can spread rumors and cause trouble, so can I. However, I have to remind you that I am an orphan now and have no worries. If you let me know next time that someone is spouting feces from behind, I won't argue with the old brats. So that some people don't always like to talk about respecting the elderly and loving the young, but don't care if there are any problems with the elderly or the young themselves. When the time comes, I'll settle the accounts with those little rabbits born to the old ones. Anyway, I'm just an orphan. Barefoot people are not afraid of wearing shoes, which has angered me. Hee hee. You guys should weigh it up on your own. Me. Jia Zhang let out a sigh of anger, but realized that she couldn't do anything. After all, she is not afraid of any rumors and gossip. After all, there are many troubles in front of the widow's door, and Jia and Zhang are used to it. But when he thought of his precious son Jia Dongxu, Jia Zhang dared not joke about his son's future and reputation even if he continued to behave recklessly. What are you? Li Rulong walked forward. Although he was only 18 years old now, his body size was already much taller than Jia Zhang's, and he was also taller and stronger than his peers. Seeing the other person walking over, Jia Zhang instinctively thought she was going to be beaten and quickly stepped back, almost tripping over her own toilet. I wanted to call myself my son, but on second thought, this kid in front of me is not a good person. If you really call out your son Jia Dongxu, it won't be the other party who will suffer, it's not worth it. What do you want to do? You still want to hit someone. Jia Zhang's chubby face was full of a stern expression. Hitting someone. I'm afraid I'll get my hands dirty. Li Rulong pursed his lips and looked at the embarrassed Yan Bugui and Yang Ruihua. Yan Laokai, you have to say, our two families live door-to-door, and we see each other every day. Our old man has regular dealings with you, so it's reasonable to call you and your daughter-in-law uncle and aunt, but I never expected that those words would come out of your daughter-in-law's mouth today. Of course, I also know that your daughter-in-law didn't pick this up. You said that how well the neighbors in our yard got along originally, because some mouse dung came, the pot of porridge was spoiled. Yan Laozhai, this person's surname Zhang is a non-local resident, so I won't say anything. You are also an elderly person in our hospital and a knowledgeable person. You can't control the mouths of others or your wife. If you really can't control them, why don't I help you manage them? Xiaolong, what kind of words do you sound like? Yan Bugui still wants face, his face a bit unpleasant. I told your aunt that you are also your elder. Did you speak like that? Did anyone say that to me? Hee hee. I remember an ancient saying. What is it called? Li Rulong sneered and said, what do you want? Yan Bugui instinctively wanted to add, do not do to others, but on second thought, he realized that he was running a run on himself. What face is there to criticize others for something that one cannot do on their own? My daughter-in-law's mouth was broken behind her back, and she spoke so harshly that she was caught by the mastermind. Don't just call you Yan Lao Go, you have no place to reason even if you smash your glass. By the way, it's something you don't want to do to others, right? Li Rulong joked as he looked at Yan Bugui. We don't usually look up or down, but your husband and wife are still elders. But think about it yourself, are those words that an elder should have said just now? Chapter 004. What are the benefits of killing animals? Seeking freshness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yan Bugui was said to be blush, but just now it's really all right. In addition, Li Rulong is right. He is now an orphan and has nothing to do with him. If he really gets into a hurry, maybe he can give some money to his own West Wing. At this awkward moment, someone walked over from the middle courtyard and was somewhat surprised to see the four people in the front courtyard deadlocked. Oh, what's going on? The speaker was none other than Yi Zhonghai, who loved moral kidnapping the most. At this time, he looked very young, less than 40 years old. It's early in the morning, don't go to work, just chat here. Master Yi, it's okay, just a casual chat. Yan Bugui immediately climbed down the slope and pulled out a slightly stiff smile. Are you going to work? Why is it so early? There's nothing I can do. The tasks in the factory have been heavy lately, and I've been working overtime. Of course, I can't be an exception. Yi Zhonghai walked over with a smile, as if he hadn't seen the four of them pulling their swords and crossbows just now. Let's not talk for now, I need to hurry up and take a step first. Okay, you're walking, Yan Bugui greeted with a smile. For Yi Zhonghai, Li Rulong's senses are even worse than those of Yan Bugui and Yang Ruihua. He also doesn't believe that the other party didn't see what's going on here, let alone that they didn't hear what he just said. Although it seems like Yi Zhonghai just interjected and didn't say anything substantial, in reality, he still clearly leans towards the Jia Zhang and Yan Bugui couples. Otherwise, anyone who has a bit of a bottom line in life would have to mention the Jia Zhang and Yan Bugui couples. However, he is still young and his reputation has not yet been established, and coupled with the fact that the 49 cities have not been liberated yet, he is currently in a state of chaos and chaos. Obviously, this guy will not cause trouble for himself because of the Jia Zhang family and Yan Bugui couple. After all, Li Rulong is indeed barefoot and not afraid of wearing shoes, and Yi Zhonghai is not foolish. Now, not only is his identity as a master still unknown, but even Fu Zui has not surrendered. In such a chaotic situation, being wise and protecting oneself is the wisest choice. Li Rulong glanced at Yi Zhonghai's resolute departure and a hint of disgust flashed in his eyes. At present, he was too lazy to talk to Jia Zhang and Yan Bugui anymore, so he bent down and picked up a branch from the stove where Yang Ruihua had risen. Although Yan Bugui is still a small business owner and did not become a primary school teacher, his stingy personality has always been ingrained in his bones. I can't bear to use coal balls when burning a stove. I have to spend money to buy them. Don't the dead branches and rotten wood I pick up smell good when burned? What do you want? Yang Ruihua thought that Li Rulong was suddenly about to take action and quickly hid behind his man. Just take a branch, as for what? Li Rulong threw a disdainful look and turned around to leave. However, as he passed by Jia Zhang, he quietly reached out and took a breath from the other person's body, then casually patted the newly held branch. If there were no golden fingers, Li Rulong wouldn't mind smashing Jia's glass at night and finding time to put Jia Dongxu in a sack. But now you have the golden finger, it's quite useful, so there's no need to reveal it. Watching Li Rulong leave, Yan Bugui and the others just breathed a sigh of relief, but they stopped walking again. Finally, let me remind you not to hear anyone spraying feces from behind, otherwise you will bear the consequences. Li Rulong turned around and pointed at four people with a branch. Anyway, in my family's situation, even if I make some mistakes, no one can take care of me. What's wrong? After speaking, I turned around and passed through the hanging flower gate between the inverted room and the front yard. Then, I turned left and passed by the screen wall to exit the main entrance of the courtyard. Hey! This kid, how are you talking? Yan Bugui dared to speak as he watched the person really leave. Don't look at Li Rulong, he's only 18 years old, but his head is still there. And it's also a alleyway wanderer and a street wanderer, it's really not a small trouble to make trouble. With Yan Bugui's courage, which is not much greater than that of a chicken, and his character of reincarnating an abacus spirit, it is obvious that he will not cause trouble for himself. On Jia Zhang's side, she was first caught on the scene by Li Rulong, then interrupted by Li Rulong to cast spells, and even threatened with a face full of anger. Finally, the matter passed, and she dared not say anything. She carried the toilet and walked towards the public restroom. However, he deliberately slowed down his pace, obviously afraid of being retaliated by Li Rulong if he turns around. Yan Bugui looked at Jia Zhang, who was angrily leaving, clearly wanting to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything and reached out to drag his wife back to his own home. What do you want me to say about you? You're such a big person, and even if you break your mouth, you're still being listened to. You've had enough time to calm down and want to find something to do, right? Yan Bugui, who closed the door when he returned home, said with a quick response. It was Jia Zhang who said it first and spoke so loudly, An Ruehua said with a look of grievance. I thought that little rabbit. That kid didn't wake up, so he followed suit and didn't say anything unpleasant. Besides, didn't you make me establish a good relationship with the Jia and Yi families in the middle courtyard, as well as the Lu family in the backyard? Otherwise, I can deal with the Jia and Zhang families. I don't care who said it first, let's talk about it at home later. Yan Bugue looked at the other person angrily, and I asked you to establish a good relationship, but I didn't let you cause any trouble. Don't you take a look at the current era, what's going on outside? The war is chaotic, you've lived enough, but I haven't lived enough yet. The head of the family, no, not so much, right? Yang Ruehua's face turned slightly pale. Not at all. Do you know who on the street can't be provoked? Yan Bugue couldn't help but scold, Taoists, monks, beggars, women, children, because we don't know their origins. If we get into trouble with someone who shouldn't be, the whole family will be in trouble. Well. Then I'll just avoid him a bit in the future, Yang Ruehua said wrongly. Stay away for now, but don't be afraid, Yan Bugue said with a hint of anger in his eyes, not towards his wife, but towards Li Rulong. Wait and see, when the situation becomes clear, hey. You can't even trust him. Just now, Li Rulong didn't give him face. Yan Bugue, who is careful with his hatred, has taken note of it. Li Rulong doesn't know what Yan Bugue said to his wife, but even if he does, he won't take it to heart. After leaving the courtyard, he directly recited the communication bronze mirror with his heart. Just as Jia Zhang's spell was interrupted and Yan Bugue was being attacked, the bronze mirror rang several times in a row, ding. 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 However, it is difficult to check in front of the animals. No one is bothering me now, just communicate with copper mirror, and then an abnormality occurs. Destiny point +2, destiny point +3, destiny point +2, there are actually more than one similar prompts. Li Rulong calculated and said, wow, I just earned 10 destiny points during the fight against beasts. Can it be difficult to increase one's destiny by attacking animals? Li Rulong subconsciously analyzed, so if it's a trap for animals, can there be more destiny points? Thinking of this, he turned his head and indeed found that Jia Zhang was following behind with a clear hesitation. Chapter 005. Revenge on the Spot. Seeking Collection. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Important reminder. To avoid reading difficulties, replace the currency used at this time directly with the second set of RMB, which will look more intuitive. The specific prices will also be adjusted accordingly. After all, I cannot find the price details of Beijing in 1949. Please understand, thank you. Li Rulong found a small alley on his way to the public restroom and dug in, repairing the small branches he had picked up from the Yen family before, forming a humanoid shape. When Jia Zhang came over, Li Rulong also avoided it for a while. Jia Zhang was clearly afraid of retaliation, so she took a special look and made sure that the person was not there before walking confidently to the public restroom. Unexpectedly, as he walked over, Li Rulong quietly crawled out and took a picture of Jia Zhang's breath from behind, patting it on the branch. When the other party was about to reach the public restroom, he directly broke off the small branch representing his left foot. With a crisp sound, Jia Zhang felt a sudden pain in her left foot and her entire left leg was sore. She couldn't bear to eat anymore and fell to the ground with a single, oh, sound. If we put it aside normally, it's okay. At most, it would be a big drop, but the problem is that this guy is carrying his own toilet in his hand. The toilet was filled with a bucket full of yellow among people and embarrassment. Jia Zhang's leg was soft, and she had a slight instinctive reaction to stop, but suddenly felt a pain in her right foot and a tingling sensation in her right leg. Okay, I can't run away now. The whole person fell directly to the ground, so lifeless that the overturned toilet happened to fall onto Jia Zhang's increasingly plump head. How about saying that when people have bad luck, they even stuff their teeth when drinking water. Jia Zhang's pain was before the fall, and it became even more painful after the fall. Subconsciously, I wanted to open my mouth and scream in pain, but the toilet hit my brain seed. Gudong. Gudong. Ah, when a foul smell suddenly spread throughout the alley, Jia Zhang, who had been drenched with yellow and saw, and swallowed a few bites, couldn't resist and vomited in the dark on the spot. Good guy, this smell has knocked out the appetite of countless people. After witnessing Jia Zhang lock his own toilet onto his head, Rulong finally gave a relieved smile. Just as he was about to take advantage of the big guy's attention and be drawn away by this foul-smelling scene, and planned to quietly detour away from the other side, the big world mirror in his mind suddenly had a reaction. Fate point +8. Rulong suddenly came to his senses. He originally planned to use the nightmare victory technique to trap Jia Zhang, purely to relieve his anger and seek revenge. However, he unintentionally gained a point of fate before, but opened a new door for Rulong. I didn't expect it to be really successful. It seems that even deceiving people can gain a point of destiny. Rulong couldn't help but analyze. No, it should be deceiving plot characters to gain a point of destiny, or should we change the fate of plot characters? Fate point +8, shit. It's increased again. Rulong exclaimed with joy, but at the same time, he felt that it wasn't quite right. But it's not right either. I've been traveling to this world for several days now, and what I usually say and do will certainly change the fate of some of the plot characters in the courtyard. But why does Mao increase his destiny by 10 points every day after midnight? Thinking of this, Rulong also knew that he had just analyzed Mao Yong here, so he turned around and left to test it thoroughly. He went to brush his clothes and hid his achievements and fame, but Jia Zhang's side quickly became a joke for the entire Nanluoga lane. Turning a toilet into a set and even pulling it to eat on your own, tsk, this can become a laughing stock for the whole year in Nanluoguxiang. Rulong was unaware of Jia Zhang's situation, and knowing it would only make him happier. Others like a gentleman to seek revenge for 10 years, but on his side, it's like a young man seeking revenge from morning till night. For him, the scene just now was just a negligible interest, and in the future, there was time to trouble the Jia family. By the way, there are also the future 3 great mothers, Yan Bugui, and Yi Zhonghai. No. To be precise, there should be one beast at a time in the entire 95 courtyard that cannot run away. Rulong didn't wait for others to bully him before realizing his counterattack personality. Since everyone knows these people are beasts, he must take the initiative to attack. Even if his current Yenqing technique cannot kill people, there is no need to actually kill them, but it is not a problem to abolish these beasts. Just like Jia Zhang just now, as long as they can find a suitable opportunity to break their hands, legs, and so on, I believe these beasts can be eliminated a lot, so as not to have to worry about everything. You know, as the old saying goes, only 1,000 days of being a thief cannot have the principle of 1,000 days of preventing thieves. Rulong was not originally a person who would swallow his pride, especially after crossing time and having a golden finger. It is even less likely that he would be bullied and self-medicate, saying that he does not have the same view as others. Especially now that deceiving people can still earn a bit of fate, what else is there to say? Just do it. After leaving the location where Jia Zhang's self-dumping of feces occurred, Rulong spent some time using the nightmare technique to trap the two of them. But it's not just a random trap. He's just being notorious in the alley, and he's not as ruthless as he was towards Jia Zhang. The result of trying was found to be useless. It seems that this is asking me to play more tricks on those beasts. I dare to be kind. If that's the case, then I'll have to be good to them in the future. By the way, pitying them can earn them more destiny points. But what if we kill them? Will we get more destiny points? I think that's right, but Rulong had no intention of doing so. Don't misunderstand, it's definitely not about being soft-hearted or not taking action, it's about being unworthy. In Li Rujing's view, not to mention how many fate points can be obtained by killing a beast, no. It should be a question mark whether one can obtain the fate point and whether there will be any side effects. Even if possible, living animals are not equivalent to leeks. They occasionally cut a wave, just like today. Isn't it fragrant? Of course, if one day these beasts really hit their bottom line, even if they don't earn any extra fate points, Li Rulong dares to send them a family reunion. Li Rulong, who was full of thoughts, did not find anyone to test it anymore. Instead, he headed west and quickly left Nanluoga Lane to reach the Tianzao Sea, not a typo, territory. The Sea of the 49 cities is divided into two parts, the first 3 seas and the last 3 seas. The first 3 seas refer to the North Sea, the Middle Sea, and the South China Sea, while the latter 3 seas are the Front Sea, the Back Sea, and the West Sea, also known as the Tianzao Sea. And the name of these Tianzao comes from the fact that there are 10 Buddhist temples in the area of Qianhai, Hohai, and Shihai. Later, due to reasons that everyone understood, Shikahai became Shikahai. By the end of Shikahai, my goodness, even though it's still early, it's quite lively here. Especially when you reach Shikahai and head north for a while, you will find the famous Yanbeoxi Street. Chapter 006. Zhao Lusi. No, it's Tianzao. Seeking. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yanbeoxi Street is equivalent to a commercial street in later times, with shops on both sides of the street and many people doing business on the street. As soon as Li Rulong smelled the aroma of food floating in the air, his stomach immediately began to protest and he quickly searched the street. There are many breakfast stalls, including wonton, steamed stuffed buns, fried tripe and soybean milk fried dough sticks. Li Rulong walked past a stall selling bloated belly and suddenly felt that the vendor looked a bit familiar, but he didn't remember who it was for a moment. My guest, let's taste my belly, it's the most authentic. The vendor greeted with a smile. No need, Li Rulong politely declined. It's not that he can't afford it, nor is it that he's not used to eating bloated belly, but rather that he's a bit uncomfortable eating it in the morning. Fortunately, the person next door was selling fried liver and buns. I walked over and asked for a basket of pork and scallion-filled buns and a bowl of fried liver. Your steamed buns and fried liver, take your time. Li Rulong took a pair of chopsticks from the chopstick barrel, but didn't want to wash them clean. He picked up the stir-fried belly and took a sip while spinning along the edge of the bowl. Seeing this scene on the stall, I smiled knowingly. Stir-fried liver needs to be eaten like this. If it's too hot, it has to be sucked along the edge of the bowl, which is called a down-to-earth dish. To be honest, the mornings of these years are very real. The baozi skin is so thin that it is soaked in oil and water, and there is also a lot of dried goods in the fried liver. As for the taste, it depends on the individual and the wise. Anyway, with the dietary habits of Li Rulong from later generations, this breakfast may not be considered very good, but it is superior to its original flavor without any technology or cuteness. It's not that it's not delicious, it's purely a matter of personal taste. In addition, there are so many spicy breakfasts to choose from in later generations, including those from all over the world and even abroad, and there are so many spicy tricks to play with. Compared to the breakfast of 1949, it is indeed worse. Otherwise, there would not be so many spicy and time-honored delicacies that would have been eliminated or had to be improved. It's true that half a young man eats a poor old man. A basket of pork and scallion-filled buns and a large bowl of solid fried liver were added to Li Rulong's stomach. Li Rulong realized that he was not even half full, so he decided to order another basket of buns and a bowl of fried liver. After finishing the meal, you should be 80% full and just right. At the checkout, Li Rulong once again experienced the abnormal prices of this era. This breakfast will definitely be so cheap for future generations, but it's really not cheap right now. It's not surprising that in times of chaos, those unscrupulous merchants are pushing up grain prices in order to make more money. As grain prices rise, everything else follows suit. To avoid reading barriers, the currency used at this time is directly replaced with the second set of RMB. This makes it more intuitive, and the corresponding prices can only be written according to the information searched. If there are any errors, please forgive us, thanks to the cheap old man who saved some property before he left, otherwise I would have had trouble even eating now. After paying, Li Rulong casually threw the money he found back into the spiritual realm. However, just knowing how to save money is not enough. We need to find a way to open up the market. And the feng shui in the number 95 courtyard is not good. There are too many animals, and if you stay there for a long time, you will know what will happen. After making money, buy a single door, single family courtyard. Don't be too big. It's just fine for a second courtyard, and you can also make do for a first courtyard. This way, you won't feel cramped and won't be envied by the large area, causing trouble when the strong wind blows. As for the ways to make money, there seem to be only 3 ways to make money right now. One is to sell the jade bottle containing the little green spirit pill, but I'm young now and don't understand the twists and turns in this industry. Maybe I'll be fooled. The second is to buy some seeds or chickens and ducks to keep in the spiritual realm. Whether it's selling grain, eggs, or duck eggs, it will be much safer than selling jade bottles. Even so, the origin of the goods is difficult to explain. As for the final solution, it is to take advantage of the fact that even public-private partnerships have not yet begun and private business is still in the allowed stage, and find ways to do some business. Otherwise, if you want to buy a house, you will have to wait for a monkey year. At this point of fate, I didn't expect it to be just 30 o'clock in the morning. If you work hard, maybe you can make up for 100 days today, and then you can exchange things again. As a result, Li Rulong was thinking about making money and fate, but he didn't pay attention and ended up hitting someone. Hey, how do you walk? You don't have long eyes. His tone was a bit immature, but his words were very blunt. Ha! Li Rulong, who had a clear view of the other person, was stunned for a moment. Despite the other party's tomboyish attire, Li Rulong, as an experienced driver in later generations, could tell at a glance that the other party was a girl. If it's just that, it's okay. The key is that he's quite familiar with that face. Zhao Lusi. Who is Zhao Lusi? Tianzao looked at the boy in front of him and said angrily, "You've mistaken the person." "No way, I'm so familiar with your face." "Who are you, Zhao Lusi?" Li Rulong actually knew he must have mistaken someone, after all, it's only 1949. Not to mention Zhao Lusi, whether Zhao Lusi's mother was born or not has to be questioned. "This is our sister, Tianzao." A half-solid-looking young man squeezed up to Li Rulong and stood in front of Tianzao. "Where did you hang out? No one in this area doesn't know about our sister." Tianzao. Li Rulong was stunned for a moment before finally matching the person in front of him with the female protagonist of a certain era drama in his mind. "I'm all mixed up in Nanluo Guxiang and Jiadaeku. Come here for breakfast today and give my stomach some oil and water to replenish." "Alright, don't talk to him so much, let's get down to business first." Tianzao glanced at someone and remembered that he seemed to have seen him at Uncle Gui's stall just now. He waved his hand and quickly walked away with a group of young brothers. Looking at the backs of these people, Li Rulong was overjoyed. Isn't this Tianzao, the female lead in the TV drama, Hutong? Oh my goodness, the world I've been traveling through for a long time isn't just a courtyard house full of birds. Hey! To put it this way, may this world also incorporate other era dramas, such as... Several era dramas popped out of Li Rulong's mind in a row, and the reason for this was because he had watched these era dramas before traveling. As for why he, as a young man, wanted to watch this kind of drama, to be precise, he specifically found several classic-era dramas to watch in order to become a good group performer, in order to broaden his acting career. Once the current drama is completed, one can directly move on to the next era drama crew to continue acting, and one day they may be seen as a big star. So it's not just Hutong, Birds Full of Sihiyuan was also watched at that time, there are also some other era dramas. However, as Tianzao and her group of little brothers were about to run away, Li Rulong didn't think too much and quickly followed them from a distance. Chapter 007. How to cut off a beard when someone is a childhood sweetheart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Based on his understanding of Tianzao, this girl is not only good-looking, but also has an indescribable personality and character. I have to admit there are some shortcomings. Firstly, I haven't attended school, have little education, and have a stubborn personality. However, for Li Rulong, it's not a problem at all. In the eyes of an experienced driver, this kind of girl paper is actually easy to handle. But on the other hand, she had a fiancé, more precisely, a disciple whom Tianzao's father had taken before his death, with the big names Sun Tai and the small names Tai Dan, and she wanted to match the two little ones together. In the original plot, there was a perfect combination, and the two got married and had a daughter. However, Sun Tai seems to have learned wrestling from Tianzao's father on the surface, but in reality, he has two other identities. Zhang is an instructor in the secret service of the Kuomintang, specializing in teaching combat skills. On the other hand, our party will infiltrate the enemy's internal forces and become the public security officers of the 49 cities after liberation, specializing in capturing enemy spies. However, with the arrival of Li Rulong, it remains to be seen whether their marriage can still be achieved. After all, who made this field of jujube grow so watery? It's okay to say nothing about character, but the key is that it's also related to the street office and the public security bureau. Later on, he also became the director of the Sanhai Neighborhood Committee. Although he never rose in his lifetime, he was not affected during the 10 years when the strong winds blew. On the contrary, it was that iron egg who had been lurking in the enemy camp and had to go to a sports school to become a teacher. All of this is considered good, probably due to the protection of Director Lin and Director Li. The other male supporting role seems to be called Depeng, but he failed to survive the 10 years of strong wind. Li Rulong followed behind Tianzao and the others, recalling the relevant plot, and the more he thought about it, the more he felt that Tianzao was a very good option. As for Qin Huairu, I'm sorry, Li Rulong admits that the 18-year-old 13 aunties are very beautiful, but she has a rural household registration. Leave a lot of beautiful girl papers in the city and don't want them. If you insist on finding rural girl papers, it's not because you have a mental illness, what is it? Of course, if the policy allows it, it would be quite appropriate to marry back and become a young person, but the problem is that the policy will not allow it in the future, unless it can be done before the policy change. As for that iron egg, hee. Fair competition, everyone depends on their abilities. If I remember correctly, this girl has always wanted to avenge her father. Li Rulong followed her all the way out of Shikahai and headed towards the front door. As long as I help her kill that Han fatty, with this kind of kindness, marrying her should not be a problem. Why don't we just let that iron egg encounter something unexpected? Without this childhood sweetheart, wouldn't I have a chance? Wait, it seems like this is not very authentic. After all, they have also made a lot of contributions to the country. Forget it, let's all rely on our abilities. Anyway, I'm not someone who doesn't marry unless it's Tianzao. The world is so spicy, isn't it just these plot characters for me to choose from? Thinking of this, Li Rulong didn't take a break and focused on following behind Tianzao and the others. Don't mention it, these little guys are quite impressive. They don't forget to look back from time to time when walking, and their alertness is quite high. However, when Li Rulong cheats, One of the core elements of the nightmare victory technique is to absorb the target character's breath and then use objects to substitute for form to curse. Just as he followed, he took in a hint of the scent of jujube, and with this scent, he was not afraid of being embarrassed. Li Anren followed the old man for a while, from Yanbaxi Street to the front door greenhouse fence, and finally saw these little guys stop at the corner of the intersection diagonally opposite a shop with the sign of Hongfeng Restaurant. On the surface, these beggars seem to be playing here, but in reality, they are staring at the suspicious shop under the guidance of Tianzao. Seeing this scene before him, Li Rulong didn't even know that it was the very beginning of Hutong. Tianzao, in order to avenge his father, took his younger brothers and put on an enemy agent's burlap bag as a pretext for begging, and snatched an M1935 Browning high-power pistol from the opponent. Li Rulong didn't run up foolishly and said he wanted to help, but he was mentally disabled. To infiltrate the small group of Tianzao and others, there must be a suitable opportunity, and this opportunity is nothing better than saving people and helping the other party seek revenge. However, Li Rulong also knew that although he now has a spiritual realm and can master the nightmare victory technique, and even taking the little green spirit pill has greatly improved his physical fitness, his frontal combat ability is still not strong. You should know that this is before the liberation, not to mention the regular army. Even the thugs have guns, so being careful won't hurt. This is not cowardice, but caution. Li Rulong stared at Tianzao and the others from a distance, and before long, he saw that these people had made some movements. Similar to the original plot, Tianzao's subordinates, De Yong, first brought a group of little guys forward to beg for food. The enemy spy must not be a kind-hearted person, so naturally he wouldn't give it. So the little ones deliberately provoked and even hit each other with slingshots. The enemy agent, who was already anxious due to the unfavorable situation, was very angry and wanted to catch up with these little beggars to teach them a good lesson. As a result, they chased all the way to an uninhabited alley. As soon as they entered, they were controlled by De Yong and the others who had been waiting for them early. Then, two little guys took burlap bags and directly placed them on the head of the enemy agent. Let Li Rulong give a thumbs up to Tianzao, but he is not a weak girl with no binding power. Just a flying leg kicked the enemy spy who was covered in a burlap bag to the ground. Waiting for Tianzao to get the pistol he wanted from the enemy spy, he stuffed the gun directly into his bag, and then knocked out the struggling enemy spy Louis with one foot. Only then did he turn around and withdraw with his little brothers. After waiting to confirm that the person had indeed left, Li Rulong appeared. He directly stepped forward and extended his hand, putting on a burlap bag and feinting enemy agents before being thrown into the spiritual realm space. For Tianzao, the value of this person lies in the pistol, but in Li Rulong's view, the other person's behavior is clearly picking sesame seeds and losing watermelons. Don't forget, the money carried by this product alone is enough for Li Rulong to chew on the grain for a while. Li Rulong was both surprised and taken for granted that there was even a spare pistol hidden on this cargo. M1910. Surprisingly, it's a flower-mouthed masturbator. Isn't this the gun that Chu Yunfei gave to Li Yunlong? Li Rulong, holding a gun, was very happy and even made a few strokes in his hand. Although his only shooting experience was during military training in college and he never played with this type of gun, as the old saying goes, he never ate pork or watched a pig run. In later times, the information on the internet was so popular that Li Rulong watched many videos related to firearms. In addition, these guns, no matter how different their designs may be, are actually inseparable from their operation. In no time, Li Rulong had already figured out how to change the ammunition, shoot, and secure the gun. Chapter 008. Black Eats Black. This is called eliminating harm for the people. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In addition to guns, Li Rulong also found money, identification documents, spare magazines and other things from the other party, and naturally accepted them all with a smile. But that's not enough, Li Rulong is not a field date. He picked sesame seeds and lost watermelons. Well, when the enemy spy woke up, he found himself tied up tightly. What scares him the most is that he is actually on a bare farmland, which looks like a good place to bury corpses. So the first reaction of this guy after waking up was, did he expose himself? Don't look around, let's have a good conversation. Li Rulong walked up to the other person with a freshly woven grass figure. The grassman's composition is very rough, but overall one can see his head, 4 feet, and even his face with eyes, nose, and mouth painted on it. Who are you? What do you want to do? Let me go. The enemy agent struggled hard, his tone was fierce, but there was a hint of fierce and malicious intent. Unfortunately, Li Rulong is firmly tied to the thief. No matter how hard this guy struggles, he will be completely defeated. Not to mention that, Li Rulong didn't stop the other party from struggling, but instead smiled and grabbed them, then slapped the scarecrow in his hand. It seems you still need to calm down. As soon as the words fell, Li Rulong broke the scarecrow's right leg. Ah! The enemy agent suddenly screamed in agony. It's so noisy. Li Rulong reached out and held down the area where the scarecrow's mouth was. In the next moment, the enemy agent couldn't make a sound and could only hum there. Faced with such strange means, the enemy spy's eyes were filled with a look of fear. These people are also engaged in the business of licking blood and knives. They may seem no different from ordinary people, but in reality, they just put their heads on their waistbands to make a living. It's not a problem for them to kill, but in the face of such incredible means, how can you make them carry it? After Li Rulong broke all 4 feet of the scarecrow and even sliced a wooden nail into his chest, he smoothly obtained all the information he wanted. Isn't that strange? Don't worry, as long as you cooperate well and don't act recklessly, I can swear never to kill you. Li Rulong smiled contentedly. But there's one thing he didn't say, which is, life is better than death. With the intelligence provided by enemy agents, Li Rulong easily found the enemy's lair. This is a courtyard house, not big, with only 2 entrances. The location is also relatively remote, and the environment is very complex. Even if there are people surrounding, it is completely possible to escape easily with the help of the environment and the secret passage revealed by enemy agents. Li Rulong did not walk foolishly through the door, but found the secret exit that the good said. It has to be said that these people are indeed like frightened birds. The first thing they do wherever they go is to find a way out. This secret passage is really secretive, not a single person saw it even after Li Rulong found a place to enter. Entering the secret passage, no, to be precise, before entering the secret passage, Li Rulong exerted all his strength to activate the spiritual realm space. In this way, even if the enemy spy reveals false information or false intelligence, there is no need to be afraid of intentionally leading him to death. Whether it's an explosion or a mechanism, there won't be anything wrong with Li Rulong's spiritual space. Fortunately, it has been proven that there may be some tough guys among these enemy spies, but obviously this one is not. So Li Rulong smoothly followed the secret passage and entered the courtyard where the other person lived. The other end of the secret path is in the vegetable cellar. Almost all the old courtyards in the 4 or 9 cities have this kind of place, which is used to store vegetables in the winter. What kind of cabbage, sweet potatoes, etc. can be left in the vegetable cellar for a long time. However, to Li Rulong's surprise and joy, as he followed the vegetable cellar at the other end of the secret passage to this courtyard with 2 entrances, the bronze mirror had a reaction again. Fate point +18, sleeping slot. Why so many? Li Rulong was pleasantly surprised. Do you know that before, there was only a 2.3 point increase in dealing with animals, and even after defeating Jia and Zhang, it only increased by 16 points. As a result, my fate increased by 18 points when I entered this courtyard. What kind of mechanism and principle is it? Why don't you even have a manual? Gone. Fortunately, roast goes back to roast, and such gains still make Li Rulong energetic. After Li Rulong carefully explored this courtyard, although the fate point did not increase again, he still gained a lot. He actually found the radio station mentioned in his confession. Not only that, weapons, ammunition, and some emergency supplies were also hidden in the walls between the main room and the west wing, including the famous Chicago typewriter in later generations. The only downside that Li Rulong felt was that this thing was not equipped with a 50-round drum, but only a 20-round magazine. Fortunately, even so, with this gun, Li Rulong's combat power instantly skyrocketed. Surprisingly, there is still a property deed. Li Rulong took out a contract from a box specially designed for storing belongings. Yeah, I already have a radio station. If it's just for rent, it's definitely not as safe as buying it. So, with this property deed, didn't my idea of changing houses come true ahead of schedule? Although this two-courtyard house may be a bit remote, its advantage lies in its tranquility, and there is also a secret passage. If anything happens, I can still run. Wait a minute. I'm not an enemy spy, what am I running for? I'm just running. However, this yard is not so easy to access. Who knows if there are any accomplices who know about this goods? If they are discovered, it's not surprising to know that these enemy agents will definitely come knocking on their door to silence them. I am a top-quality jade now, so there is no need to touch these rotten tiles for this small profit. At least, being cautious is not harmful until I don't have enough self-protection ability. You can keep the property deed for now, maybe it will come in handy in the future. Since all the things here have come, it's better not to give others a discount. Thinking of this, Li Rulong first took away the box containing the belongings, and then packed all the things that could be taken away from the entire courtyard. Anyway, the spiritual realm space is still empty, and a dedicated area has been designated to store furniture, decorations, daily necessities, and so on. Even though it's best not to take these things out for use, there won't be any problems using them in the spiritual space. If it weren't for the fact that he couldn't take it with him, Li Rulong would have even thought of giving this courtyard to the sole domain space, so as not to have to spend time building a courtyard in the space as a place to stay. After a busy life, Li Rulong didn't even have lunch, but the harvest was still quite huge. Weapons, ammunition, radio stations, not to mention some canned emergency supplies, there is also a lot of money in this area. Among them, just the big yellow croaker, which is 10 taels of gold bars, has found 3. The current liang is not the metric liang in later generations. Currently, every liang is only 31.25 grams, and 10 liang is 312.5 grams. 3 big yellow croakers are just 1,000 grams of gold, this is a huge sum of money. Chapter 009. Jia Dongxu didn't hold his breath. Seeking flowers. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Due to the current chaotic situation, the Kuomintang has begun to suffer a complete defeat. It is unknown how many wealthy and powerful people have left the country to travel to Xiangjiang, Bay Island, Nian, and even European and American countries. In addition, the invasion of the Little Devils and the subsequent civil war led to inflation and skyrocketing prices, all of which led to the increasing value of gold. In the early days of the Republic of China, a large yellow croaker could be exchanged for 300 to 500 large oceans, depending on the specific version and condition of the ocean. By the middle of the Republic of China, a large yellow croaker could already exchange for about 800 large oceans. As for the year 1949, our party is already at the edge of the city, and I don't know how many people in the 49 cities want to run away. However, there are too many types of banknotes in this era, which are too messy and not worth money at all. While the ocean can circulate, its size is too large to carry, and it is far less useful than gold. So at the current gold price, a large yellow croaker can be exchanged for around 1,000 pieces of ocean, which is still the listed price of the bank. If it were on the black market, the value of a big yellow croaker would be even higher. After all, in foreign countries, people are more willing to accept gold rather than silver. 3 big yellow croakers are equivalent to about 3,000 ocean dollars, which can be even more in paper currency. Nowadays, in the restaurants of the 4 or 9 cities, $3 can make the shopkeeper have a whole table of good dishes, which is a huge sum of money. If it's not difficult to use it openly, with this money, we can now buy a yard in the 49 cities. By the way, there are so many enemy spies in these days and years. We don't expect everyone to be as rich as this one, can we always gather some wool? In this case, I still do a yarn business, specializing in black eating and black eating. Pooh, pooh, pooh. I'm not a black person. I'm called a chivalrous person who fights for the people, robs the rich to help the poor, and is truly chivalrous. Okay, whether others believe it or not, I believe it myself. Thinking of this, Rulong didn't delay any longer and slipped down the secret passage, while also cleaning up the traces he left behind. However, he also knew that he was not a professional at all. Fortunately, he hasn't been liberated yet, so he doesn't have to worry about being misunderstood by his own people for the time being. Just as Rulong concealed the exit of the secret passage, the copper mirror had another reaction. Fate point plus 18, wow, there's still one. Rulong was pleasantly surprised, but he also had a headache. So, what is the mechanism and principle behind this increase in fate? Why doesn't there even be a manual? This is too low, isn't it? Besides the headache, I am also very happy. I earned 30 plus 18 destiny points before, but now it has increased by 18, which is almost 66 points. If I can earn another 34 points, I can exchange them again through the bronze mirror. So the question is, how can I earn these 34 destiny points while ensuring my own safety? Thinking of this, Rulong immediately thought of the group of beasts in the courtyard at number 95 Nanluoga Lane. Perhaps the fate points obtained from there are not many, but the victory lies in safety, and it can continue to flow, not stronger than wandering around outside. Thinking of this, Rulong didn't delay at all and quickly returned to the street cloth to call a human-powered tricycle back to Nanluoga Lane. In fact, during the interrogation of enemy spies before, Rulong also confirmed some information, such as knowing Han Qingkue, the enemy who killed Tianzao's father. I even know that Jing Chang, also known as the spy leader codenamed Night Wolf, plans to develop Han Qingkue and prepare a batch of weapons and ammunition for the enemy, with the aim of bringing as much chaos as possible after our party's troops enter the city. Well, from this alone, it can be seen that these spies of the Kuomintang also know that the territory of the 49 cities cannot be inhabited. However, what really made Rulong care was that Tianzao's revenge failed and he was almost buried alive after being caught by Han Qingkue. In the end, his childhood sweetheart Iron Egg came forward to save the person, but he only saved the person and did not kill Han Qingkue. Rulong believes that if he can make good use of this incident, he will not only be able to brush his destiny points, but also be able to gain favor from Tianzao. If I remember correctly, Tianzao sought revenge on Han Qingkue and was discovered by the owner who sold his belly. In the end, at a critical moment, Iron Egg appeared and saved Tianzao, which caused a wave of goodwill. Isn't that to say, I have to stop this first? Otherwise, when that Iron Egg appears, not only will there be nothing for me, but Han Qingkue's side will also be difficult to handle. After all, he is a member of our party. If I kill Han Qingkue in front of him, maybe this guy will come and catch me when our party enters the city. Ha! If I really want to catch them, it doesn't seem like a bad thing. Tianzao will definitely avenge me when the time comes. Isn't there a rift in this childhood sweetheart relationship? Rulong was thinking about the next action plan when he suddenly saw 3 familiar figures in the distance ahead. Let's just stop here, Rulong said. Sir, we'll be there a while longer. The coachman quickly stopped the car, but still advised, just a few more kicks. Don't worry, it's a lot of money for your car, Rulong said, jumping off the car and paying for it. Thank you, sir, the coachman said happily. Rulong waved his hand and turned to follow the 3 familiar figures. It was not too far away to determine who these three people were. They were Jia Dongxu from the Jia family in the middle courtyard, Lu Guangqi from the Lu family in the backyard, and Su Damao from the Su family. Among the three, Su Damao is the youngest, born in 38 and currently only 12 years old. Jia Dongxu is the oldest, born at the end of 31 years old, and currently only 18 years old. Lu Guangqi is about the same age as Sili Zhu. He was born in 35 years old and is currently only 15 years old. The reason why they are all calculated based on virtual years is because in the north, it is important to be born at 1 year old and conceive for 10 months. How did these three guys come together? Li Rulong was somewhat surprised. These three people were not good birds, and if they came together, they definitely didn't hold any good farts. So he quietly followed along. Dongxu, it's okay if you want to ask us for help, but today's matter is not as simple as you said, is it? Lu Guangqi put his hands in his pockets. I've heard that this morning it was Li Rulong, your mother, who broke her mouth behind her back. It's okay to say he's a gangster in an alley, but he still claims that Uncle Li's death was caused by Li Rulong. Moreover, from beginning to end, Li Rulong only moved his mouth but didn't take action, and your mother will fall and eat. What's eating that? What does it have to do with Li Rulong? When it comes to Jia and Zhang indulging in eating and drinking while wearing a toilet, Lu Guangqi and Su Damao feel a stomachache and laugh. This matter has now spread throughout Nanluoga Lane, and even spread towards Sanhai, Yanbeoxi Street, and several nearby alleyway gathering places. Yeah, Dongxu, if we don't explain things clearly, if this is really wrong, then Guangqi and I will have to follow suit. Su Damao, who couldn't help but laugh, was not very young, but he had been deeply influenced by his father since childhood and was shrewd. If it weren't for the kid surnamed Li getting angry with my mother, could she? What could she do? Jia Dongxu's tone was very angry, but when he talked about his mother's eating and drinking, a look of disgust couldn't help but appear on his face. Chapter 010. Treating others with the way of others. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Reminder again. In order to avoid being blocked, it is emphasized again that in order to avoid reading barriers, the currency in the book will be replaced with a second set of RMB, and the corresponding prices will also be as close to the actual situation as possible. Thank you. How could it be said that it's not just a family that doesn't enter the same door? No matter how bad the reputation of Jia Zhang is, others can talk about her, but Jia Zhang cannot be criticized, let alone despised. As the old saying goes, there is a lot of trouble in front of a widow's door. It is indeed not easy for Jia Zhang, a widow, to drag her child to adulthood. If she does not behave aggressively and unreasonably enough, it will be a question whether the mother and son can still live to this day. Otherwise, there is a saying that they are eating out of households, which has been passed down from ancient times to today. Jia Dongxu's father left early and did not leave him a younger brother or sister, making him the only child of the Jia family. Since childhood, he has been favored by the Jia Zhang family. Regarding the time of Lao Jia's death, after checking the information, we couldn't find a definite official record. Based on the fact that Jia Dongxu was an only child, we can only infer that his father must have died 40 years or even earlier. Otherwise, he would have had a younger brother or sister, so we have corrected it again earlier. How much Jia Zhang doted on his own son, just look at how Bang Gung later became spoiled. As the old saying goes, like father, like son. Moreover, if it weren't for his bad character, with Jia Dongxu's work at the steel rolling mill and urban household registration, it could even be seen from the portrait of Jia Dongxu taken out during the summoning of the deceased Jia Zhang, which also fits the aesthetic of the 1950s. How could it be possible to marry a rural daughter-in-law under such good conditions in the year 51? And even if you want to marry someone from the countryside, besides being handsome, your family must also have some background, otherwise Jia and Zhang would be interested. As the old saying goes, children don't mind their mothers being ugly, and dogs don't mind their families being poor. Jia Zhang did so much spicy things for Jia Dongxu, but ended up disliking him. Guangqi and Damao, she's always my mother no matter what. Jia Dongxu knew he couldn't fool the two kids around him. Besides, Li Rulong was adopted. Can we let these people dominate our yard? That's impossible, Lu Guangqi nodded. Dongxu, if you have anything to say, just say it directly. Su Damao didn't want to chat with the other party anymore and got straight to the point. If we can do it, Guangqi and I will definitely help you, but if it's not impossible, please don't make things difficult for us. There's nothing I can't do, I just want to teach him a lesson and make this kid suffer a bit. Jia Dongxu knew it was impossible to manipulate these two people with empty words. He reluctantly took out $1 and said, "This is your hard work fee, half for each person, how about it? I told you earlier." Lu Guangqi snatched the money and looked at it. After confirming it was true, he put it in his pocket. There was no other way. A few days ago, He Yuzhu from the Intermediate People's Court ran into a Kuomintang soldier trying to grab something while selling steamed buns. This guy grabbed the buns and ran from Dongxiamen Gate to Nanshanqing Street, then to Chaoyang Gate. Finally, he abandoned those two wounded soldiers. Normally, you should take the steamed buns home, but when He Yuzhu arrived, he met a businessman from another city on the way and sold all the buns to him. He ran back to the courtyard with the money and handed it to He Daqing. As a result, He Daqing took the money and saw that it was all fake, so he jumped and cursed in the courtyard. So now, when the people in the courtyard use the money, especially when they come back from outside to change money, they will carefully check to avoid encountering counterfeit money again. Brother Guangqi, I have half of it, Su Damao couldn't help but remind him as he watched the money being carried in Lu Guangqi's pocket. Don't worry, I'll look for it later and give it to you. Lu Guangqi glanced at the other person and said, Why, can't you trust me? Okay, then I'll look for you later and give it to me. Su Damao didn't say much, who made him the youngest among the three. Dongxu, how do you plan to teach him a lesson? Put him in a sack. Lu Guangqi looked at Jia Dongxu, I have to remind you that both Damao and I are younger than you. You can help, but being a main force is definitely not enough. Of course, if this is in place, then everything is easy to say. Looking at Lu Guangqi's gesture of rubbing money, Jia Dongxu was annoyed, but who made him ask for help? If you can help me, that's enough. I'll remember you guys. If there's anything you need to help me with in the future, I won't hesitate. Okay, as long as you say that, let's talk about it. What exactly is the Constitution? Lu Guangqi nodded. I plan to let him taste the bitterness my mother has endured. Jia Dongxu's face was full of fierce expression. But what he did was really not, or rather, not entirely to avenge his mother, but rather because the impact of this incident was too great and embarrassing. Not only those who have lost the Jia and Zhang families, but also Jia Dongxu, who is a son, is equally shameful. Well, after so much time, he didn't listen to someone privately calling him, the son of that woman who eats and drinks a lot. Who can bear this? Jia Dongxu also knew that he was at the age of getting married, and during this time he was searching for a girl who was good-looking, had a good figure, and had good family conditions to be his daughter-in-law. At this critical moment, he unexpectedly became the son of that woman who indulges in food and drink. If such a reputation were spread more widely, could he still find a good girl? At this moment, Jia Dongxu's mentality can be described in one sentence as tolerable or intolerable. His idea is also very simple, to treat others in their own way. What are you saying? There aren't any Tianlong Babu yet. This is not important, anyway Jia Dongxu does have a similar idea now. As for whether his mother's affairs have anything to do with Li Rulong, it is even less important. As long as he thinks there is, then there is. Dongxu, that's a good idea, but what should we do? Lu Guangqi was not foolish, Li Rulong is tall and powerful. It's impossible for the three of us to push him into the toilet, right? Simple, I plan to buy 3 mahjong sticks, larger and bolder firecrackers, but I don't believe he won't go to the bathroom. Jia Dongxu actually knows he can't beat someone, so he has no intention of carrying them head-on. When he goes to the bathroom, the three of us will light the mahjong sticks and throw them inside. Finally, Jia Dongxu made a gesture of explosion. Bang! With a loud bang, not only will he be fed and drunk, but he can also fall into the pit and take a good shower. Upon hearing that it was just this operation, Lu Guangqi and Su Dumao looked at each other and breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. That's not right, brother Dongxu. If it's just like this, why are you looking for us? Su Dumao always felt that things were not that simple. You can't handle it yourself. We're all the same without us.